New York's District Attorney Cy Vance Jr.'s office is considering whether to reopen Malcolm X's 55-year-old murder case. The staff of Shabazz Productions are doing their best to remain optimistic about this reopening, because the truth of the matter is that we feel the case was never actually ever opened from the get-go. To us, the investigation, if you want to call it that, was a sham before Malcolm even hit the stage floor. For instance, the bullet-riddled lectern that Malcolm stood at when he was shot was never even taken out of the ballroom for any real serious forensic study. A dance for partygoers was allowed to take place inside the room only hours after Malcolm was shot. Proof that the crime scene was never really secured. And there were other things proved to be incompetent in the so-called murder investigation. Will justice continue to be blind? Will the statue of the woman here remove the veil from her eyes? We aren't naive, and we don't expect the system that oppressed Malcolm to handcuff itself. A system who made sure Malcolm didn't get anything for you. An important aspect of the Malcolm X case is Omar Shabazz's examination of the acoustic evidence, or lack of it. Brother Benjamin 2X Goodman was Malcolm's assistant minister, who later changed his name to Benjamin Kareem. The book he wrote, Remembering Malcolm, is required reading. On the day Malcolm was assassinated, on February 21st, 1965, Brother Benjamin was the man who warmed up the crowd inside the Autobahn Ballroom. The large crowd, estimated to be approximately 400 people, some friends, some enemies, sat eagerly waiting for the people's champion to speak. Among the enemies in the crowd were some now known Nation of Islam members from Newark, New Jersey's Mosque No. 25, led by their lieutenant, Linwood X. Cathcart, acting as overseer of the execution squad, namely William X. Bradley, whose instrument of death will be a sawed-off shotgun. Thomas Hare will use a government model .45 caliber automatic pistol. Arriving from Mosque No. 11 in Boston will be Clarence X. Gill, captain of that mosque and bodyguard of Muhammad Ali. Others will be Albert Thomas, Leon Davis, Wilbur McKinley. These three will also be from the Newark, New Jersey Mosque. Malcolm arrives late, enters the building at West 166th Street at the entrance under the marquee. Malcolm climbs the stairs, escorted down the long length of the ballroom, and goes backstage. The evil eyes of his soon-to-be murderers watch Malcolm through his final minutes being alive on earth. They all know that Malcolm's wife and children are in the house, but that's not going to change anything, because the die is set, and Malcolm shall not escape. While Malcolm sits backstage waiting to come forward, Brother Benjamin comes to the microphone and addresses the crowd. Painstakingly, I acquired Benjamin's warm-up speech on cassette tape that I had for over 30 years. This is what Malcolm's assistant, Minister Benjamin Kareem, had to say before Malcolm came forward to be murdered. Let's listen to it.
Of people who look just like you and I. Even in Russia, the resources of Russia is under the feet of black people who look just like you and I. Black, brown, red, yellow, white, and whatever they are. They look just like you and I who are sitting right in here. In Azerbaijan, in the Black Sea area where the oil is, there are people who look just like you and I. You look at them now. Everywhere on this earth where there's anything valuable, you and I are walking on top of it. Walking on it. And we don't want anyone to have it. All we have to do is come together. Here. Because if you and I don't have peace here, there will be no peace anywhere else on this earth. People in Africa look just like you and I. Millions of people. People in Latin America, they look just like you and I. So we'll never let anyone tell you that you are a minority. Never allow your children to think that they have to sit beside a white child in order to learn. This is wrong. This is a man can go in a closet and learn. You don't have to sit beside nobody in order to learn. You don't have, you can sit by yourself on a mountain, anywhere, and you can learn. So you and I must understand today, we must be aware of everything that's going on. Don't say what happened over here doesn't affect you, because it does. If you're in a river, a pond, and someone drops a big bowl around the corner, and it makes a wave 25 feet high, and that wave is heading towards you, don't say it doesn't make any difference because it's over there. No, it makes a lot of difference. Well, anytime anything happens anywhere on this earth, it sets up waves. Whatever happens in the Congo, it affects us right here in this country. Whatever happens anywhere on this earth has an effect on you and I right here in this country. If a line is in your living room and you're in the kitchen, that line threatens your life. If you don't think so, you just sit there like a fool and don't recognize that he's in your house. Today, you and I must not only consider ourselves, but we must consider our children. Not only must you consider your children, but there are unborn generations among us. They have not even yet come into existence. This is the way a wise man thinks. He said, if I can't make it myself, maybe I can prepare a way for my child. And if my child can't make it, then I'll instill the will in him to prepare a way for his child. And this is the only way that you and I will make it, is to understand that we must prepare a way for those that will come after us. You won't always be here, but your children will be here. And your children's children will be here. Now, should they go through what you and I have gone through? Should you die not knowing that what your child will face? Should you and I die today without seeing that your and my children will have a bright future as other people are preparing for their children? No, this is a sin for any people not to prepare a way for the generation that will come after them. But you cannot only think of the future, you must also think of right now, the present. And I would like to say this too, that what's happening today causes a great division, has caused a great division in America. The race problem causes a division, because the northern white man is responsible for the ignorance of the southern white man. He's responsible for it. He's responsible because the north won the war. That means he was the conqueror. The south was the conqueror. The industrialist movement. They could have educated these people to get a better understanding than they have now, because their ignorant southern brother is going to cause them to lose their image all over this earth. Not that the northern loves you, not that the one of you loves you, but he's wild enough, he is split enough to make pretend that he loves you. If you and I were all in an ocean, in a boat, and the boat was leaking, and you was working as hard as I am to get the water out of the boat, that doesn't mean you love me. But you're trying to save yourself. Jesse, I'm telling you, the only reason you're doing it is because I'm in the boat and you're in the same boat. So this is that, we both in the same boat. So you don't ever know what's happening. What's happening now is the effect. But then there's a underlying cause for everything that happens right now. So you and I must say everything. When you start your course, don't be so stubborn and sporty that you fail to revise your course or go in another direction. Something new comes up, you have to revise. If you're driving a 1939 car today, then try to get you a 1960 something. When another one come out, you look bad riding around in an old car. Now we're changing, minds are changing, everything is changing. So you and I must consider we're living in very, very changing times. And what might be today might not be tomorrow. And without any further ado, I bring before you Brother Minister Malcolm, and I pray that you and I will listen, hear, and understand. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Hold it. the FBI paid a visit to Malcolm's home in Queens and made some fascinating overtures. Now, it just so happens that Malcolm had installed a hidden microphone in his living room and had taped the conversation, and fortuitously, I acquired that recording. One of his aides, Earl Grant, explained how that hidden microphone came to be.
I got him in the habit of recording everything. I even had a little portable tape recorder. Used to carry around with me, and so I got all those tapes. And so I told him he should have one at his house. You never know who's going to come by. Even start taping his telephone calls, you know, so he'd have a record of everything. And so we had a very high-quality machine. It was under his couch, and had a little switch he could click it on. And so that was set up for that kind of eventuality. Mm-hmm. If you ever got any visitors for any kind of reason that he wanted a record of what was said, they'd never know he was taping them.
He went through such great lengths with both of you, I guess, to put down a record. You, Earl, you recorded a lot of his speeches.
Yeah.
And Bob, you were taking pictures.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to leave as good a record as possible of what he was about.
That's right.
In the little time that he had, huh?
Mm.
What happened that day? Your role normally at the Audubon was to record his speeches.
Yeah.
And so you were setting up that day?
I'd already set it up.
And what
we were
happened?
set up before he got there.
Mm-hmm. And when he got there, what did he do?
Well, we stopped in the back and talked for a few minutes. He looked around.
How'd he look?
Haggard, worn, like he'd aged 10 years in the last week.
Earl Grant, you've been sitting here very quietly listening to everything.
Yeah.
It's difficult, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Just
You see,
great boss.
he knew the game was up. Mm. And as a leader, he had the responsibility to preserve as many of his people as he could. That's what any general, any commanding officer under combat does. You don't sacrifice your people needlessly. And so he took all of these steps to make sure we would survive. Like, we were in the back room, they're off to the side, the right side. And Benjamin was there, myself, James 67, and a couple of the assistants and secretaries. And he wanted somebody to go make a phone call, to call, can't think of his name, they had to run the amateur show at the Power Theater. Ralph Cooper.
He was supposed to be there.
Yeah, Ralph Cooper was supposed to be there. They were going to have some kind of fundraiser. And so he told me to go out. Well, man, I didn't go out. I didn't make phone calls. That's what the sisters did to somebody, some of the secretarial staff, and we wasn't concerned with that. No, he insisted that I go out there. I mean, he absolutely would not let anybody else make the phone call, and I'd never spoke to Ralph Cooper before in my life. And looking back on it, that was his way of getting me out of the room, because I'd have been standing right up front with that big tape recorder.
You mean to tell me you think he knew it was going to go down that day?
Certainly.
He sent Benjamin off the stage, which is most unusual. Benjamin normally, after introducing him, would go sit down.
Sit down, right
there and sit on the stage with him. As Benjamin finished speaking,
Yeah.
Malcolm came in just before Benjamin finished speaking. He sat down, he had his pad there. And then when Benjamin stopped and introduced him, Malcolm got up, and as they crossed paths, Malcolm going to the podium, Benjamin going to sit down, he stopped Benjamin and whispered something in his ear. And Benjamin went back off the stage, down to the back, and I remember out of the corner of my eye, Benjamin was back, almost in the back of the stage when the commotion broke out. And that's what saved his life. Had he been on that stage, anybody on that stage would have been killed. The shots that rang out.
I'm having difficulty understanding why Malcolm would expose himself like that. If he knew that he was going to be shot, why wouldn't he take some sort of defensive action? Why would he send everybody away, remove his perimeter of defense, and almost bare his breast to the assassin? Why would he do that?
Well, he was a samurai.
He just felt it was hopeless and that it was going to go down anyway.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, he was a samurai.
Was it because Malcolm was a samurai? Or did he believe that if he gave his assassins a chance to get him isolated away from his family, that his wife and children would be spared? The people who attempted to kill him had no regard for the safety of his family. That was proven on February 14, 1965, when his killers firebombed his house that was potentially a death trap for all inside.
We went other places, but then they started going to the Audubon Ballroom, and we had a procedure, and most people didn't know about the procedure. The procedure was that the sisters sit on the front line with the weapons. Now, anybody say this wasn't so is lying, okay? I'm talking about what I did. Now, I don't know who else, you know, I'm not going to name names because I'm not about that. But the procedure was that everybody was to be searched at every meeting that we had, and there was supposed to be a patrol also. And the sisters would sit on the front line in the middle with whatever they had to protect themselves or whoever, okay? The day of the demise of Malcolm, it was not set up that way. When I came in, I was late that day, and I had my daughter with me, and I had never taken her to the meetings for fear something was going to happen. But that day, I had her with me, and I was 3 booths, 1, 2, 3, about 4 booths or 3 booths from the stage on the right-hand side. I asked, did I see Benjamin? I saw somebody. And I asked him, why was there no security? He said, Malcolm didn't want none. So I said, well, you know, what can I do? I'm just a sister, you know I'll go back in that bag, you know. So you follow orders. But anyway, Benjamin, we were supposed to have numerous guests that day, but they didn't show up for some reason or another. And Benjamin got on the stage and began to speak. And Malcolm came in, I think he was late. Betty was sitting in the booth right beside, on the left-hand side, with all her children. That's the first time she had been there, with all her children. And the imam from Mecca, who gave me my name and gave me my daughter's name, because we took Shahada when he was here. Malcolm brought it back from Mecca. So those of us who wanted to be Sunni Muslims or whatever, you know, Orthodox Muslim, whatever you want to call us, we just all Muslims. We took our Shahada. Listen, I didn't know what I was doing, but I took my Shahada anyway, and I've taken it many times after in my own mind and heart to know that there is no God but Allah. And Muhammad is his last messenger. So anyway, Malcolm came out on, and I noticed that vein was popped up again. And I said, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? 2 men were sitting in the booth that I was sitting in, very well dressed, with a tape. So, you know, I just, you know, everybody, you know, brings tapes and whatnot, because usually they didn't allow us to have no tapes in there, no cameras. So when the incident happened, what happened was a ruckus started in the middle on my left-hand side, and Malcolm tried, as usual, to quiet everybody down. And then for some reason or another, he did this, and then he turned back like this, and then this noise, you know, like somebody shot out a cannon or something, you know? And the 2 men that were sitting next to me pushed me up under the table. And I kicked off my shoes and kicked him, not realizing what I was doing, okay? And when I jumped up, I stood on the table and I saw Malcolm on the floor. I jumped the tables, got to Betty, and her and the children and the imam and put them in the back. And then I jumped up on the stage.
Earl Grant's tape deck was never turned on to record. 2, it was recorded by Earl's deck but never released to the public. Or 3, the only version of the recording that made it to the public was the one that sounds inferior, that was recorded on a portable device, which still doesn't explain why the recording suddenly stops. Apparently, the tape recorder that was used by the person taping that day was a small battery-operated portable handheld device with a microphone plugged directly into it to pick up sound. It's reasonable to assume that the recording that you heard earlier in this production of Benjamin Kareem speaking before Malcolm came forward was captured by a similar device, because the recording of Mr. Kareem sounds distant and acoustically inferior. Sister Khadidra stated that she was seated in booth seat 10 or 12 on the right-hand side of the room, facing the stage. If the recording played earlier in this production was the recording captured by the two men with the portable recorder, it would explain why acoustically it sounds so far away, hollow and low in fidelity. The analog magnetic compact audio cassette tape was developed by the Philips Company in Belgium and was introduced in September of 1962 and hit the United States in 1963. The recorder used for the blank tapes typically recorded music and the human voice through a built-in microphone or one that could be plugged in externally. So what media format was used to make the recording you heard Benjamin Kareem's voice on? Was it recorded on a portable reel-to-reel recorder? Was it the cassette tape that was introduced in 1962? Why did I mention all of this? What's the significance of it all? Here's the issue. Remember earlier, Earl Grant said that he had already set up his large reel-to-reel tape deck? Let's play it back.
What happened that day? Your role normally at the Audubon was to record his speeches.
Yeah.
And so you were setting up that day?
I'd already set it up.
And what
We were
happened?
set up before he got there. I'd already set it up before he got there.
We already covered where Sister Khadidra and the two men were sitting, so let's get rid of that and bring Earl Grant into the picture with his reel-to-reel tape deck. Now we are about to get into the real nitty-gritty of it all. Plugged directly into the large reel-to-reel tape deck that Earl Grant was using was the very popular Shure 555 microphone, known for its great sound quality for broadcasting, recording, public address, and other sound applications. You've seen this popular iconic microphone used by many famous individuals. And of course, you've seen it with Malcolm X. If this microphone was connected directly to Earl's reel-to-reel tape deck, then we all need to hear the better quality recording of Benjamin Kareem's speech leading up to Malcolm coming forward and speaking directly into the microphone when he was executed. Even if the microphone was plugged into a mixer and then into Earl's tape deck, the sound quality of the tape that I played can't possibly be from that source. If the Shure microphone was attached to the room's public address system and captured by a portable device, the sound quality of the tape that I played should still sound better. Either Earl Grant's tape deck was never turned on to record, 2, it was recorded by Earl's deck but never released to the public, or 3, the only version of the recording that made it to the public was the one that sounds inferior that was recorded on a portable device, which still doesn't explain why the recording suddenly stops. The public needs to hear the original recording from the reel-to-reel tape, not from some third-party cassette tape ripped from some miniature portable device with distant, low-fidelity, inferior sound. If the Malcolm X case is going to be opened, then a complete, thorough investigation will be needed. Acoustic evidence should be part of the investigation. I knew both Robert L. Higgins and Earl Grant. Both were aides to Malcolm. Without any luck, I tried to get Earl Grant to release some of the recordings he had made of Malcolm. He told me the recordings were in storage. Those recordings can be very helpful now. They can reveal the voices of people who may still be alive, who were constantly calling Malcolm's house, making death threats. A forensic study of the sound can speak volumes. Is it possible that the microphone was never on? The microphone had an on and off switch. One of the wildest stories I ever heard when I was studying the Malcolm X assassination story is that one of the assassin's bullets hit the stop button on Earl Grant's reel-to-reel deck, and that's why the recording abruptly stops after you hear the 2 shotgun blasts. How convenient. One of the assassins was a marksman with his pistol, aimed it at the recorder's stop button, shot at it, and turned the recorder off. Yeah, sure. Hearing the reel-to-reel tape of the assassination in its entirety can help in forensic study in analyzing the amount of shotgun blasts that were fired. It's alleged that 2 shotgun blasts were fired at Malcolm, but 3 spent shotgun shells were retrieved at the scene. On a website called The Smoking Gun, 3 spent shotgun shells are shown that are supposed to have been used in the crime. The spent shotgun shells can also be seen in the ARC Media 6-part documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X? An acoustic examination may also help in determining how many other weapons were fired. The sounds of silence and the voices of the screaming crowd may also be helpful. Will some high-profile individuals alleged to be involved in Malcolm's assassination be subpoenaed to appear in court to explain the accusations against them? If not, this investigation, in my opinion, will just be some more Mickey Mouse bullshit.
Completely new beginnings. We're searching out our every doubt and winning. We have no idea why we are struggling here, faced with our every fear, just to survive. The sound and come around to listening. We've touched the vibe time after time, insisting. Life is, still we can find a way from dues we've got to pay. out every doubt and winning. We want to be free, yet we have no idea why we are struggling here, faced with our everything, just to survive. Completely new, completely new.